It wasn't just you. I was deceived too. In reality, Yongri was supposed to fill in for a friend who was absent, but Hija also wanted some extra money, and as the senior, she had priority. Yongri asked why her locker was open, and John Hai replied that her lotion had run out and she wanted to borrow some. Yong didn't mind and said she could use as much as she wanted. John Hai tried to bring up Jill, but couldn't find the courage. Suddenly, their friend rushed in, panicked, bringing the news of Hija's accident. At the hospital, they were informed that the surgery was successful, but her leg had to be amputated. John Hai spent the day distracted at work, remembering all the times Yongri had helped her date Jill, even though Yongri loved him and suffered in silence. And yes, Jong-hee and Jill had already been secretly dating for some time, with even his stepmother covering for them. That night, after much thought, John Hai called him asking to meet over the weekend. Jill was happy and said he missed her too. Yong-hee asked him to dress nicely, as she wanted to spend the entire day with him. But before that day arrived, she would need to join Yongri in a cause. Ha recovered, but besides being unable to work after losing a leg, the hospital costs were enormous, and she couldn't afford to pay them. To make matters worse, the company that forces the bus attendants to leave the doors open if necessary to fit more passengers, constantly putting them at risk, refused to take responsibility for the accident. They wouldn't cover the hospital expenses, nor compensate the girl. So Yongri held a secret meeting with all the bus attendants of that company and organized a protest to defend both Hija and themselves from future accidents caused by the company's negligence, which treated them merely as tools to maximize profit. Obviously, their boss was not pleased, and neither was the head office, which pressured him to resolve the matter quickly. As a result, he threatened them. If they didn't return to work the next day, all of them would be fired. Since everyone depended on the money to survive and to feed their parents and younger siblings, many decided to give up on the protest. Yong-ri rushes to find her brother and Yong-hyan, who are both studying law, to ask for their help. After she explains everything, Jong-hyan says the company is completely in the wrong. Since the accident happened during work, it qualifies as a workplace accident. However, Young-sik explains that they made a mistake by striking without the legally required adjustment period. Even if they were right, they didn't give the company the chance to defend itself, which technically makes the strike illegal. Yong-hyan reassures her, saying that even so, the company cannot fire them for that, since it failed to provide workers with basic safety rights. The threat of dismissal is just an intimidation tactic, and it won't actually happen. Young-sik agrees, but warns that they can't drag out this standoff for too long. The company will find replacements and continue operating. Since the women are paid by the hour, they'll only wear themselves out in vain, and more people will eventually give up. Yong-ar insists they cannot give up now. If things continue this way, more bus attendants will get hurt, and Haija will never be able to pay for her hospital bills. Fortunately, Jong-hyan has a plan. He tells Young-sik to go ahead while he drives Yong-ri, who must be exhausted. On the way, she falls asleep, and Jong-hyan puts on soft music on the radio so as not to disturb her. When they arrive at the dormitory, he turns off the car, but stays there for over an hour just to let her rest longer. When Yong-ri wakes up, he lies, saying they had just arrived. Before going inside, she thanks him not only for today, but for always helping her, especially with his wise advice. That same night, Yong-yan visits his uncle's office, knowing he has contacts with the Dong newspaper, and asks for his help. The next morning, reporters from that newspaper arrive early, wanting to interview the bus attendants on strike. When the head office finds out about the involvement of the Dong press and how this negative publicity could hurt their business, they finally give in to the pressure. The bus attendants are informed that the company will cover all of Haija's medical expenses and provide her with proper compensation. The girls jump with joy, celebrating the huge victory they achieved together. But most of all, thanks to Yongri's determination and leadership, as she never gave up. At the hospital, Hija sincerely thanks Yong and apologizes for all the time she intimidated her at the dormitory. Yong-ri and the others leave the past behind, and now they can all be friends who support each other. With everything resolved, Yong went to her scheduled date with her boyfriend. Jill said he had missed her since it had been a few days since they last saw each other. Jong-hae explained about the strike that happened and praised Yong-ri's hard work in leading it. Jaeil was impressed by the strength hidden behind that sweet and gentle girl. He asked Jong-hae to sit down and gifted her a new pair of sneakers. Jill had bought the same pair he wore so they could match. He laughed as he recalled Sancheol warning him never to give sneakers as a gift, since it was considered bad luck, and the person would end up running away with them. But he wasn't worried because he believed they would be together forever. Jong-hae grew uneasy and changed the subject. She asked where he wanted to go, saying that today she would do anything he wanted as long as it was fun. Jill took her to explore other neighborhoods in the city. He bought her cotton candy, teasing her by stealing half. They went to an amusement park and spent the day enjoying different rides. Jong-hae couldn't wipe the joyful smile off her face. Being with him felt too good. After eating a snack outdoors, they strolled around showing off their matching couple sneakers. Jill noticed she looked uncomfortable and saw that her heel was hurt. He took her to the Vivaldi, then went to a pharmacy. When he returned, he applied ointment, bandaged her foot, and apologized for not realizing that new shoes take time to break in while dragging her around the entire day. He promised that next time he would pick a single place for them to spend the day together. That's when Yong-hee told him there wouldn't be a next time. Jill froze, asking what she meant. She said she wanted to break up with him. She realized they were too different, both in upbringing and in tastes. Jill couldn't understand this sudden change in her feelings. Yong-hee admitted she was impulsive, irresponsible, and always did whatever she wanted, so it would be better for them to end things now before he grew tired of her. Jill refused to break up. Feelings don't change so suddenly. She was always happy when she saw him, smiling every time they were together. Jong-hae admitted that was true. Being with him had been fun and wonderful. But unlike the new sneakers that only needed time to soften, the discomfort she felt from their difference in status would never go away. She decided her feelings for him would end here. And today, she only wanted to enjoy one last day with him. She asked him to obey his father, go to college, and live a good life before saying goodbye. Jill ran after her and asked one last time if she truly didn't want to see him anymore. Yong-hee hesitated for a moment, but then answered yes. Their relationship ended there. She managed to keep a firm composure as she walked away. But when she reached the dormitory and saw Yong-rae, she collapsed into her arms, hugging her tightly and breaking down in tears. After the breakup, Jill threw himself obsessively into his studies, the only thing that occupied his mind in a desperate attempt to forget Jong-hee. He even stopped going to boxing practice, which left Seo distressed to see him like that. Sekyul told him that Jong-hae wasn't the only girl in the world, that Jill was handsome and popular, and could be with anyone he wanted, but Jill completely ignored him. At night, Jill went alone to the Vivaldi and sat at the same table as always. The owner greeted him and asked if he had been very busy these past few days since his girlfriend had been coming alone, sitting in that same spot and requesting the same song they used to listen to together. When the man walked away to get his coffee, Jill noticed a crumpled gum wrapper on the floor. Jong-hae had been going there every day, requesting the same song, writing his name on the wrapper, and spending hours staring at it. Jill realized she still had feelings for him and decided to go to her to find out the real reason for the breakup. Meanwhile, Jong-hee returned to the dormitory and was told by her friend that the bus attendance manager had called Yong-ri for a private conversation, but it had already been half an hour, and she still hadn't come back. The truth was that the man held a deep grudge against Yong-ri for leading the strike and ruining his reputation with headquarters. Since he couldn't fire her without cause, He accused her of embezzling company funds. Young-rae firmly denied it, saying she would never trade her clear conscience for money, and that he knew very well she would never do such a thing. Enraged, he began insulting her, but Young-rae stood her ground, knowing he was trying to pressure her into resigning. Gradually, the verbal abuse turned physical, even to the point of harassment as he pretended to search her clothes for the money. Young-rae shoved him back hard, sending him into a complete rage. He grabbed her by the neck, and just as she was about to lose consciousness, John-hae stabbed a pen into his back, knocking him unconscious. Young-rae dragged her outside and begged her to run. He wouldn't die, but he had seen her before fainting and would accuse her of attempted murder. John-hae said she didn't care about the consequences or punishment. She just didn't want to be separated from Young-rae. But Young-rae pleaded with her to escape, otherwise she would be arrested. John-hae wept, begging to stay, but Young-rae insisted she would take care of everything. All John-hae needed to do was disappear for a while. Their hearts shattered as John-hae walked away from Young-rae, neither knowing if they would ever see each other again. Shortly after, Jill arrived and found Young crying on the ground. He approached her and asked what had happened, but she couldn't explain. She could only cry more and more. 7 years passed. It was now 1989. Buses no longer needed conductors and transported citizens with much greater safety. Young-rae had grown into a beautiful woman with a new job. She now worked at a beauty salon, remaining as kind and gentle as ever with everyone. A friend approached her and said that the usual annoying customer had returned and once again wanted Young-rae to wash his hair. It was extremely uncomfortable to endure the strange moans he made while she washed it. Trying to keep him from coming back, Young-rae pressed down on his head firmly, deliberately trying to irritate him. But her day was about to get better. A handsome man walked in, and her friend called out saying that her boyfriend had come to see her. The moment she saw him, Young-rae's face lit up with a bright smile. It was Jill.